According to a new study, the number of wild birds across Europe has fallen by more than a quarter since the year 1980. That means there are 550 million fewer birds flying around the continent than there were a generation ago. Well, the study, which was published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, involved more than 50 researchers who collected data in some 28 different countries. Well, the reason for this decline? Well, the biggest reason, intensive farming. Well, let's find out more now. And we can speak to Vasilis Dakos, who is a senior researcher at the Institute of Evolutionary Science at the University of Montpellier. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Why has agriculture been so bad for bird populations here in Europe?
Good evening, first of all. Thank you for the invitation. Well, agricultural practices, in particularly high input agriculture, is related to big changes in habitat destruction, and at the same time intensive use of pesticides and insecticides and fertilizers. And it's through these processes, especially the lack of food, as the insecticides are killing out a lot of insects that are available food for birds, that are affecting greatly bird populations.
But it isn't just agriculture, is it? There are some other reasons as to why bird populations have fallen. What are some of the other reasons?
Well, we have, in our study, we looked at four different reasons, or four different drivers, as we call them. One is the farmland practices that we just mentioned, but also looked at urbanization, that is the spreading of urban places around Europe, changes in forest cover, and of course, changes in climate.
And has this affected all types of birds, or have some birds been less affected than others?
Well, we have seen that all drivers are affecting birds mostly in a negative way. We found that in over 60, the majority was farmland birds that are associated with agricultural environments. We had a 60% decline in the last 40 years. We had a 40% decline in birds that prefer cold climates, what we call cold dwellers, birds that prefer to live in cold places. Also had almost a 30% decline in urban dwellers, birds that prefer to live in urban environments, and a 17% of decline in birds that prefer to live in forest.
Was it all bad news, or are there any bright spots in this study?
Well, yeah, I know that it doesn't sound very optimistic or very of a good side, but on the other hand, it's very crucial to understand that this systematic way of analyzing all this data in the last 4 decades points us to some very clear directions to solutions. Basically, we go turning into more sustainable agricultural practices and away from insecticides and pesticides could really turn the things around.
Okay, and did any countries stand out as being exemplary and perhaps something and doing things that other countries might want to follow or copy?
Well, there is a lot of diversity. We don't want to here, point the figures in bad and good countries. There are countries that are doing better in reducing pesticides, but other countries that are, equally increasing the use of the use of agricultural land as a percentage. Overall, I think there is a combination of factors that through this study we could highlight in order to give more precise directions for the future strategy in how we're going to deal with this biodiversity crisis, and specifically dealing with the management of and conservation of bird populations.
Okay, well, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. But Vasilis Dakos, senior researcher at the Institute of Evolutionary Science at the University of Montpellier. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us.
Thank you very much.